Morning, I'm Kat Morris. I'm going to be briefing today on the principles of Mission Command demonstrated by Major General Blunt, a 3ID commander in late March of 2003 during the invasion of Iraq. This brief is unclassified. As you can see, here is the agenda. Please draw your attention to the screen for this short intro video.
Volume's muted.
Thank you.
In the desert, the soldiers of the Army's 3rd Infantry Division moved from the southwest steadily towards Baghdad.
In route, we stayed pretty close to our plan. Start to finish, we didn't have a timetable on it. Not every movement went perfectly, and we had to adjust based on the situation.
Seen here on your left, this is what they call the Arc of Triumph or the Victory Arch. Seen in Baghdad, Iraq in 2003 as the forces entered that area. As you can see here on the right, this is Baghdad in 2017. See, the building still stands. When I was there in 2017, this was during a route recon and we stopped by this location. And you can see this monumental area that has, of course, been seen throughout the centuries. I'm going to give you just a really quick overview of the timeline of key events that happened. Starting with 17 March, President Bush gave the ultimatum to Saddam Hussein and his sons to leave the country in 48 hours or they were going to invade. Clearly he ignored this, and on 19 March, the United States declared, launched Operation Iraqi Freedom and began the bombardment of Baghdad with airstrikes. On 20 March, 3ID crossed into Iraq and swept rapidly to the northwest of the Tigris and Euphrates River, and then eventually shifted their momentum to the northeast, headed directly into Baghdad. On 24 March, 3D BCT and 3ID assisted in the assault of Talil Air Base, which was a key terrain location 310 kilometers southeast of Baghdad. On 5 April, we see 2 BCT, just one of their battalions, do what they called now a thunder run into Baghdad to test the Iraqi defense and see what resistance we were up against. On 5 April too, on this thunder run when they pushed into Baghdad, there was heavy resistance, but they went in heavy, also heavily armed, 29 tanks and 14 Bradleys, and were able to get that gauge so General Blunt could then see what his next move was going to be as they were entering into the city. On the 5th of April, they were able to push through and take Baghdad International Airport. Based off of his response of his force on that initial push, on 7 April, he then decided to tell the entire brigade, you're going in heavy, and they took the center of Baghdad, which is now known as the Green Zone. And finally, on 9 April, officially Baghdad was declared captured by U.S. forces. Just to give you a better layout of what I just talked through, you can see here, just focus on this black box. Down here, where the forces gathered in Kuwait, they then, of course, crossed the border into Iraq, pushed that, like I said, northwest of the Tigris and Euphrates River on this main axis of advance, and then shifted to their northeast direction straight into Baghdad. And now just looking at Mission Command, General Blunt absolutely displayed multiple command principles as he led this division into Iraq. And the 4 that I would like to touch on today is, of course, build a cohesive team through mutual trust, provide a clear commander's intent, accept prudent risk, and then the use of mission orders. looking at this first principle, it was very easy to see that General Blunt was a very upfront commander. He gave you his intent, and then he expected his commanders to take that intent and get the mission done. There was complete trust across the formation. Something that was spoken also was his commanders and his staff of General Blunt said that he gave them plenty of leeway to operate and make those decisions at their level as feasible. Something that displayed this easily was as they were moving through up into the outskirts of Baghdad, 5th Corps decided to tell Blunt to stop 100 miles out. 5th Corps told General Blunt, hey, stop here, we're going to let divisions come up, reinforce us, and then we will push into the city. General Blunt, hearing from his commanders, from what his commanders were saying was the enemy was fleeing and they needed to continue that aggressive movement into Baghdad or they were going to lose ground later in the fight. He took their recommendation as they were the ground commanders out there. He pushed back on the higher headquarters, and in the long run, 5th Corps blessed off on it. They pushed hard and heavy, and of course in the end they took Baghdad at the end. So looking at providing a clear commander's intent, what is it that the commander wants, and what is also very ingrained in what is the mission? This is where we're going with it. He provided extremely clear intent as he made sure that the division understood that they were the spearhead of the division, or spearhead of the invasion. And the mission was simple: push north, move quickly, and in the end take the heart of Baghdad. That was the whole outlook on the mission. Everyone understood that this is what they were doing. They had to move quickly and decisively through this. Now looking at risk as a commander, not only comes with what is the mission, but taking on that risk is the fact that you are in charge of lives. And when you're making those decisions, it can ultimately take the life of one of your soldiers. So in doing this, they were having an extremely hard time getting good intel on the security and the fight within the city. Blunt and his commanders just continued to operate and make decisions as the environment continued to change. Blunt was not a fan of 5th Corps' plan, which was basically hold out on the outskirts of Baghdad. They were going to specify targets. They were going to send in raiding parties, hit those targets, and then retreat back to where their main elements were residing. Blunt had no desire to do this. He saw in his head that if this was going to be the worst way he could possibly do it, one, demoralizing his men to have to fight and then lose that ground every day as they were changing the targets within the city. So in deciding this, he took on that risk, and that is when he conducted the first Thunder Run, which he sent that 1st Battalion in to test out the security of the city and the fighting force that he was up against. And then of course the follow-on, which was the 2nd Thunder Run, he sent the entire brigade in to take the city in the end. And finally, mission orders. This is clearly seen when he finally decides that he's going in, and he's going in heavy. He tells his commander, 2nd Brigade Commander Colonel Perkins, hey look, this is what we're doing, going hard, going heavy, we're going to take the city. This then trickles down as you see as it gets passed down to the battalions. And then finally to one of the company commanders, the 164th Engineer Company Commander, as he recalls, he says, I got a call from the task force talk at 1700 telling me to come to the talk for tomorrow's mission brief. I walked into the talk and found the staff busily planning the next day's mission. It was very clear they were going to attack Baghdad again. And you can clearly see that the run down, the rehearsals began, and that everyone on those levels understood what the next day's mission was going to be. Overall, General Blunt had a true grasp on mission command and the principles which fall within that, and ultimately gave his division the victory in the end. The outcome, of course, you see Baghdad fall along with the Iraq regime, the Iraqis freed from over 2 decades of tyranny, and of course this also caused shock across the Middle East because America was no longer to be messed with and they were going to be taken for their word. And then of course ultimately established the United States and coalition presence in the years to come. And then, of course, the significance of this. There is nothing more important than I think is just trust for your commanders. So in this instance, we see multiple times where the ground commanders ultimately changed the course of the battle and us pushing into Baghdad and taking that location. The second key was the speed of the invasion. Third Army didn't stop. They knew where their objective was. They continued to advance aggressively, and in the end, they took Baghdad. Any questions?
I feel like we need